Hi, I'm 905. I want to talk about Keith Moon a little bit, and something that comes up a lot in discussion is, what if Keith had lived? And there was very little time between these two albums. Keith died not long after Who Are You? Because some idiot doctor gave him a bottle of Heminevrin to try and help with his alcoholism. And all that anybody really knows is that the autopsy showed 30 undigested tablets in his stomach. And why he took so many, even his girlfriend doesn't know. But Keith was having problems at that point in time with alcoholism, more than drugs. If he stopped drinking, within several hours he'd have a seizure. And back then there weren't very many treatment centers like there are today. And as far as I'm concerned, the doctor that treated him screwed up and should have been arrested, because the drugs he was given should not have been given to him. They should have been administered at a facility. But he's gone and he's not coming back. But learn from that lesson. Keep yourself in good shape and limit your partying, because it's going to catch up to you. Now, when the Who decided to go on, they hired Kenny Jones. And I don't want to take anything away from Kenny Jones. I think he's a great drummer. But I think at times he held back, because there's like this thing about not treading on sacred soil. Don't try and copy Keith. Don't do this. Well, as far as the Who music goes, it's 1/4 of that band. There's 4 parts of that band that made a sound, and if you take one away or don't fill it properly, it's just like if you put a bass player in that doesn't play like John Entwistle, or change the words to the song, it's not going to sound right. Face Dances, to me, always was a great album, but there were parts in it that I could hear nothing where I thought there should be something. Or it almost seemed like Pete wrote the songs before Keith died, at least some of them, thinking about where Keith would put fills in. And this Kenny seemed to hold back a lot, especially Bob O'Reilly. He didn't play cymbals at all, and that's a real hard crashing song, and it needs like a ride cymbal. That's one of Keith's signature sounds is a 20-inch cymbal just riding through the song. And what that did is it gave the band filler, because if they're a 3-piece band with keyboards thrown in, but mostly they're a 3-piece band, and that cymbal filled in a lot of blank sound, plus all his fills. And a couple things that he did that people don't follow when they're playing the Who music, or drummers that they've had, since Keith died, is he did where you would normally play, he would do or he would use his left bass drum to fill in off a snare roll. So he would be like, instead of, he would throw that left bass drum in there, and that's what gives you that. But you hear that, but you don't see it, because Keith's using his left bass drum as a tom. You never hear Keith, I don't think of any song Keith played where he did a double bass beat like, or any kind of speed fills. He used the bass drum as an accent or a flam, and you can see that in some of the videos. I caught it in the Isle of Wight video. He was literally jumping up and down on the seat while he was flamming his double bass drums. Whether this came accidentally or by design, I don't know. Unfortunately, the biggest thing that bothers me about Keith is that nobody ever sat down and really got his theory on drumming down. I have one article in a drum magazine back in the day, and it really doesn't go into a lot of depth of what he was thinking or how he approached the drums. You know, there's a lot that's missing. The one thing for sure is that he varied from where most drummers look at the time signature and you're going to keep time. Like John Bonham's a good example. You listen to Led Zeppelin is tick-tock, it's very tight. You listen to the Who flows. They're still in time, but they're flowing. They're not tick-tock, you know, strictly right on the mark. And Keith would use that and just keep rolling off of that and filling. And, you know, that's what pretty much made his sound so unique. He was almost like mixing in some Gene Krupa with almost like a real steady beat like the Beach Boys would use, because he was a huge fan of the Beach Boys and loved that surf music, which was almost like early disco. So it was really, a lot of times you hear songs where he's just on the bass drum and it's just straight, like My Wife, it's straight through, all the way through, and he's just hammering. Long Live Rock is like that. There's several songs like that where he'll just play a straight steady beat while he's filling, and he's almost typically, if you think about it, he's soloing through the song. And he would switch. Sometimes he would accent off the vocals, sometimes he would follow the bass, and a lot of times he would follow the guitar. And if you watch some of the live clips, he is looking at Pete all the time. He's really not looking at Entwistle. He's not, almost not communicating with Entwistle at all. Where most drummers, you'd be like, you and the bass player would be, you know, keying in. He's on Pete like a hawk, because if you watch Pete's jumping across the stage and he is keeping the time with the band. He's jumping up, all else jumping up and down and the foot thing. Pete is keeping that band in time. And it's a pretty interesting thing to see, because he breaks all the rules, because nobody can tell him what to do. Most drummers, you might think, you know, of something that's happened to you. I know myself, a lot of times I'm being told by the other people in the band how to play the drums or what exactly they want to hear. But Keith wasn't going to listen to any of that, and so we got, you know, probably some of the greatest drumming ever, because, you know, he was free to play what he wanted to, which is what we should all do. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a few songs off of Face Dances that I think would have, how they would have sounded if Keith had lived, using the style and the fills that I know that Keith used in other songs, and just reapplying them in the songs where I hear them. So give me some feedback, and you know, if you want to talk about Keith or got any questions, I'm not an authority on Keith, but I have read a few books on him, and you know, I'm one of his biggest fans. So, you know, I've learned a lot watching him, and you know, rest in peace.